be calling the shots. Look at this. What that madman did. Listen, Sal. Carmine Falcone's dead. And I'm here now. I'll be calling the shots. The Falcones are still licking their wounds. They're distracted. The business will be ripe for the taking.
My father's been dead a week. You want to take what's mine?
I'm the daughter of the Falcone Don, but he's dead. The family thinks I'm broken. I'm not broken.
You and me, kid. We gotta take whatever we decide is ours. Because no one's gonna give it to us. We're not without a fight.
Penguin, you work for the family. You will do as you're told.
I refuse to let these old men push me aside again. So I'm gonna take from them now. And I'm gonna force them to their knees.
What is it you're really after, Oz?
We're gonna tear down the Empire from the inside out.
You know, Oz, people underestimate you, but not me. I've always known you were capable of more.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. DC just dropped a brand new trailer for the Penguin HBO series. It's meant to be a spin-off of Matt Reeves' Batman movies with Robert Pattinson's Batman, all expecting a lot of cameo scenes by the end of this, too. I'll be doing videos for all the episodes when it drops. It's dropping in September, if it wasn't clear. They didn't say exactly which day in September, just sometime in September. Matt Reeves did the series himself. They did build it like a traditional HBO series, so it's not just like a random series that they're putting on HBO Max or whatever they're calling it now. It's a series that they did at HBO with Batman characters. That's why it looks way more quality than a lot of other DC series you might have seen from other networks. It's meant to pick up days after the end of the first Batman movie and will end before the events of the Batman 2. James Gunn also revealed the status of the Batman 2. He said that Matt Reeves wasn't happy with the script yet. He's still working on that, so they pushed that to 2026. It was coming out next year. Now next year, the only real big DC movie that's coming out is James Gunn's new Superman movie with David Cornswet. Starting at the beginning of the trailer, notice you see him driving in his purple Maserati through the really terrible parts of town, but everything is still underwater. Like I said, that's because it's still a couple of days after the end of the first Batman movie, so the city has still been flooded because of what the Riddler did, who he calls a madman during this. But here's the thing, he doesn't hate the Riddler on moral grounds, like he doesn't think he's a bad person, like, oh, how dare you hurt all these innocent people. He hates the Riddler because of the chaos he caused and the damage is bad for business. So if the Riddler were to do something that were advantageous to the Penguin's business, he'd have no problem forming an alliance with him. It's all about practicality. He's a businessman, quote unquote, like we're talking about taking over a business here. The business just happens to be Falcone's crime family. Notice as they're driving through this terrible part of town that's underwater, you see the sign in the back that says, "Stop the drops." The drops are like the drug they were selling during the events of the first Batman movie that had become this big problem. Like you see this character walking around with the drops head on as he's trying to rob this store. Within the context of the overarching story, like the lore here, Salvatore Maroni was actually in charge of the drops. He's the person that sort of developed that and were spreading them, selling them around the city. Falcone wanted that drops business, so he sold out Maroni to the feds, who got thrown in Blackgate Prison, who we see during this trailer. That's who Penguin goes to see, played by Clancy Brown, who's also been in a bunch of other DC stuff. Most people will remember his version of Lex Luthor. Great version of animated Lex Luthor.
You know, I've carried this around for years, waiting for just the right moment. But now that it's here, I almost feel a little let down. How did a mere moment on Earth turn you into a weak, sentimental traitor?
But because Falcone is dead, Penguin is scrambling to take over his crime family. Also looks like he's going to be fighting Falcone's former family members for control of the family. What might wind up happening, because Falcone was outed for all these terrible crimes that he committed, it might force the feds to actually let Maroni go. He might be stuck in prison for the course of the series though, but I think at some point he will get out of prison. He'll probably become one of the Penguin's biggest villains eventually. You have to remember they're pitching this sort of like a Scarface series, Penguin's Scarface, the world is yours. So if he's an anti-hero during this, you have to put him up against villains that seem even worse. And it plays out more like a Sopranos type of series. So like you have a bunch of bad people, but then a bunch of other people who are way, way worse. Notice all the other signs in the background too, ads about low-interest personal loans. Just generally, this is a terrible part of Gotham. But here's the thing, they show you a bunch of different parts of the city throughout the trailer, and each one of the places looks just as bad, if not worse, than the one before. So the whole idea is that Gotham City, just in general, is meant to be in a really, really terrible state, which they kind of got into during the first Batman movie a little bit. You have to remember this is still early days, early years for the Batman, so Bruce Wayne himself has not been able to completely clean up the city. And to be fair, he never truly actually succeeds completely, like even in his old age, like when you're talking Batman Beyond era, things are still pretty bad in Gotham. When they show his driver, this is Victor Aguilar. He's meant to be a teenager that they just created for the series. He's not from DC canon or lore. He winds up finding him on the street, takes him under his wing, who becomes his driver, probably going to do small things for him, like you see him helping him bury a body in the woods of someone the Penguin just killed. You might recognize him as Renzi Feliz, who most people saw as Alex on Marvel's Runaway series, jumping from the Marvel universe to the DC universe. Notice the look on Salvatore Maroni's face when Penguin starts explaining his plan. They kind of break up their scene together across the entire trailer, where eventually Maroni asks him, like, what's the whole deal? Like, what are you trying to do here? And he basically explains to him what's happened to the Falcone family in the wake of his death, how they're scrambling, like it seems like they're completely disorganized, and the organization is ripe for takeover, so he's trying to move on that as quickly as possible before somebody else comes along. And it looks like someone already has come along, and it's Falcone's former family. Not quite so toothless as he thinks, particularly Sophia Falcone, played by Kristen Milioti, who's also Penguin's love interest during the series. So I think part of the idea, it's not really clear in the trailer, but she clearly does not underestimate Penguin and clocks what he's trying to do. Like, I know what you're trying to do, you're trying to take over this organization, but then she has these conversations in the trailer with her other brothers. Like, Falcone had 2 sons. This is the older son, and this is the younger son. The younger son is the one that actually goes up against Penguin, too. Like, how dare you try to take over my father's organization? But she kind of has the same conversation with her younger brother, saying that all these old men underestimate me, I'm going to show them what's what. Then proceeds to kill a whole bunch of people herself. So it's not totally clear from the trailer scenes if Penguin is also underestimating her, not expecting her to make a move for the crime family. But it sounds by the end of the series, they'll come to a head, like the two of them will actually go against each other. He visits Falcone's tomb. Isabella Falcone would be his wife, who also passed away before he did. You probably recognize Michael Kelly from a bunch of other series. He's playing John Vitti, Falcone's former underboss, who seems like he also gets pissed off at Penguin, like, how dare you, this is the family, you work for us, we don't work for you. And it seems like at the end of the trailer, he tries to kill him in his bed, or does successfully kill him. And he tells Maroni his grand plan to basically tear down Falcone's former organization and rebuild it in his image. Like, we're talking about the rise of the Penguin as he becomes more like comic book Penguin during this series. You also probably recognize Shorey Agladashu. This is Maroni's wife, Nadia Maroni. It seems like she still has some kind of power, like she's wielding power for him while he's stuck in prison. He's not totally toothless, even though Falcone took over most of Maroni's operation, like the Drops operation, when he threw him under the bus and got him thrown in prison. But now a lot of people will ask, if this is all going on like days after the end of the first Batman movie, where is Robert Pattinson's Batman? Like, what's Bruce Wayne doing on the other side of that coin? What's going on with Gordon, the Gotham City PD? What about the Joker, Riddler, other potential villains that might be in Arkham Asylum? Here's the thing with that. Like, we'll start with the Gotham City PD. That's actually a pretty easy one to explain. Part of the idea, like I said, is that FEMA's moved in because of this giant disaster that the Riddler caused. So the entire city, which is massive, like a big city, we only see small parts of it during the trailer here. The police, all the official authorities are busy trying to deal with the disaster, so they're busy with that, too busy to pay attention to what the Penguin is doing and a lot of these other mob members. There are a couple police sirens that you hear during the trailer, so it's not like the police are never around during this, but you have to remember that they're probably in the really bad parts of the city that are just too big for the police to handle because of the larger disaster cleanup after the events of the first Batman movie. And when it comes to Robert Pattinson's Batman, I'm not expecting him to show up till like maybe the very end of this series. There might be some moment at the very beginning, like in episode 1, just to remind you like, oh yeah, this is a Batman series. But I do think he was spotted near the set where he could have potentially filmed stuff for the finale. Because I think part of the idea is they want to use the finale to also push into the events of the Batman 2. Like, this is what's happening when the Batman 2 picks up. We'll probably get a couple more trailers. Like, they're still calling this technically the second teaser, not the official trailer. So I think when they release the next big trailer, it'll give us more of the actual story, like the more progression of what's going on episode to episode. Whatever they wind up releasing, of course I'll do a video for it. They're also still working on that Green Lantern HBO series. We're probably not going to see that for like another 2 years, maybe like 2026 or 2027 if we're lucky. That'll be mostly Jon Stewart, Hal Jordan, tying in with a lot of the other DCU stuff, like the new DCU that James Gunn is remaking. That's why we're seeing Green Lantern stuff during the new Superman movie. There's a bunch of other big stuff coming up. We're in the middle of House of the Dragon Season 2 episodes. We also have The Boys Season 4 episodes. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Everybody click here for my full House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 1 video, and click here for my new Boys Season 4 episode videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.